Hi, I'm Alicia Ogier. I'm a mother of three, ages 11, 7, and 5. I've lived in Marin County for about 15 years now. My oldest daughter is severely impacted by autism. She was diagnosed at 2. Sorry, she was diagnosed at 2. And since then, we have sort of been on a journey that I didn't always foresee, obviously, in special education, trying to navigate that, and in a whole new disability world.
Great.
Hi. Oh, and I'm also the co-chair of Dedication to Special Education, which is an educational nonprofit that fundraises for special ed programs in Marin County.
Why don't you start with how can our community be better about including children with disabilities?
Well, one way would be, I guess the one that's had the biggest impact on my family and my daughter would be educating their students with disabilities in their school district. So my daughter, for example, for years has attended a school outside of our home school. So I have 3 children, which I mentioned before, and my younger 2 are typically developing, and they have always been able to attend our local school. And she hasn't because she's disabled. So I think a community, any community, could be more welcoming in that first step is, not sending their kids with disabilities on like a separate educational track than their non-disabled peers.
You shared something in one of our meetings around the barrier and segregation and your family background that really stuck with me. Would you mind restating that?
Sure. So I think one of the things that we talked about in that meeting was that I might have the number wrong. There were 79 or are 79 segregated classrooms in Marin County. My daughter is in one of them. And she, I say this often, and she is Black, Mexican, and disabled, and she's not segregated for her race or her culture. She's segregated because she has a disability. And I think that that's something that people don't often see now or don't think about at all. They think segregation is a thing of the past, and it's not. It's just, it looks different today than it did 60 years ago.
Mental no? That's in.
Was that directed towards me?
No, it's just me. I'm just thinking about that.
I was like, what would I do?
Am I supposed to be looking at the camera or you? It's probably better that, okay.
Whatever feels good.
Okay.
Whatever feels good. What else do you want to share? I know you have a lot, so I don't want to pigeonhole you into questions.
I think the main things that I wrote down, or when I was thinking about this, was, there was a question on the forum, what are the 3 things that you think about, what was it, about this community, or that
3 words to describe the community.
Your experience in the community. And I think the 3 words I thought of in describing my experience as the parent of a child with a disability was challenging, isolating, and then the last one was hopeful. But I think I touched on the challenging aspect, right? Having a child that can't just go to your school around the corner. I drove my daughter to school for 5 years outside of the district, and I was actually driving 80 miles a day. That's to drop off, come back, go back and pick her up, come back. And not everyone can do that, right? There's a lot of kids that have to take the bus for an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the afternoon. So I think there's a real equity piece there where, because I'm able to, I can do that myself. But what about everybody else? And it's very take it or leave it in the special education community, where it's like, we have this one class and it's, 20 miles away, and that's all there is for your child. And there's not a lot of negotiation, there's not a lot of talking about it. We forget what's best for the families a lot of the time, I think. Like I said, I have 2 other kids who go to a different school who I can't always be there for because my daughter goes to a separate school. I have to organize everything from Halloween parades to Christmas parties or holiday parties that are coming up, where I have to choose, hey, I have to either be at this school or that school. And it might seem silly or simple or like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, but when it's every aspect of your life, it is a big deal. And not every family has to do that. You know, most people who have a fifth grader, a second grader, and a TKer are just at one school. They're not at multiple schools. And they don't have to worry about, you know, schlepping their kids 45 minutes in the morning. It's just around the corner, which is how long it took me to take my daughter to school this morning, 45 minutes. When my other kids, it's 5 minutes. So, what was I saying again?
That's beautiful.
I think we can simplify that statement in a way,
Yeah.
which is that you're driving this extra distance,
Yeah,
right? And why?
because my daughter is disabled. Because
No, but explain that like there's because certain maybe school
oh yeah,
you know, desires of yours aren't being met locally, that you have to then travel far. Right?
yeah, that helps. Thank you. So what ends up happening a lot of the time is, you know, you get a diagnosis and then you're kind of put in a different bucket, right? You're not in general education, you're in special education. And once that happens, at least for us, it was like our daughter's educational journey her trajectory was totally shifted. She was on this path and it was like, oh, nope, you're going this way. And options that we thought were available weren't really available to us. So we bought a house in a specific neighborhood. Turns out that school wasn't available to us for her. They didn't have the services, they didn't have the resources there to meet her needs. So we were sort of outsourced to the Marin County Office of Ed, who provides classrooms for moderate to severely disabled students all over Marin County, and they're placed at different sites throughout the county. And so it's not really based off of where you live, it's your child's disability and kind of what pod or what group they fit in best with. So even if you want to send your child to their local school, a lot of times parents do want to, and they have to fight really, really hard to get that. And again, I go back to equity, because what parents can fight that? What parents have the resources to fight that? Here I am, a mom who, you know, doesn't have I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a lot of time to devote to this and the means and an education, and I speak the language, and it's still really, really challenging for me. So what about our single-parent households, Spanish-speaking families? It's really not a system that's built for anybody, but especially not for the already marginalized communities, I think. Did that answer
Yeah,
you? I don't know. I feel like I end up going off on tangents.
Well, no, that was helpful because I know a lot of it. I think you soundbited it well. You did the expanded version, but I think it's a lot of details in there because there are a lot of people that travel long distances for private schools, and that's not.
Yeah, no, that was
happening.
not my situation. It was not a choice. It wasn't like well, I'd rather send her to this school totally out of our community, 20 miles away. It was, this is the only option for Elena, and it's the best option, and it was what everyone was telling me was the best option. And as a parent, you want what's best for your child, right? And so I was willing to do that, even though it made life a lot more challenging for my family. I had 2 younger kids at the time when we first started driving her, or I started driving her, and at times I would be in traffic for over an hour with a newborn baby screaming with an ear infection and a chatty toddler, and I thought to myself, you know, I couldn't write this. I couldn't have possibly planned or thought that this would happen. And again, I think sometimes people think, oh, that's not that bad. But when it's like so many things, when it's every aspect of your life, it's your child's not going to their neighborhood school, you have to travel far for therapies, oh, you also have to fight insurance to reimburse you, oh, and you also have to do, like, everything kind of ticks, and it just adds, and it feels like a life of just kind of challenges and exclusions for kids who just need a little bit more support. And I think a lot of times could probably get it from their local schools, but we're in this system of this is how we've always done things. This is just the way it's always been done, and I hear that so often, and that doesn't make it right. And I think we've seen that in the past before, where things are done a certain way, and then people start to challenge that. And I think that's where the hope part comes in, where I hope we're coming to this kind of new, I don't know, era of people challenging the way our students with disabilities are taught and educated, I think in 20, maybe even less, 15, 20 years, we're going to look back at the way that we teach them, and we're going to be just astonished by how archaic it was, and how we, what's the word I'm looking for, segregated them, and just left them out. And I'm hopeful that it'll get better. That wasn't very eloquent, sorry.
No, you're doing good. Love it how we're perfect. Any last thing you want to say before we wrap?
Yeah, I think in thinking about the questions that were posed, one of the things that I know of that has been challenging for my family and families all over Marin County is the programming for kids with disabilities is just so there's hardly any for kids with disabilities versus their non-disabled peers. So my two kids who don't have disabilities, they play softball, they play tennis, they play soccer. I mean, a lot of times I wish they wouldn't because our schedules are so busy, but there's so many things offered to them. After school enrichment programs are offered to them. But for my oldest daughter, there aren't any after school enrichment programs because, that would be too difficult. We can't, you'd have to have, it doesn't work out, right? And any kind of sports or athletics, there's nothing not only not catering to kids with disabilities, but not welcoming. She's not welcomed on any sports teams, and it's I think it would go a long way for communities to open their doors and do more programming and develop more community kind of awareness around people with disabilities.
Might give you more quality family time too.
Yeah, right? Instead of having to drive super far to this one little neighborhood or area that has a team that, what is it, like a sports team that caters to kids with disabilities, and you have to drive really far for that, which we're willing to do, and we do that. But like I said, my other kids get to just be in our neighborhood, around the corner, at their schools, at the parks, at the playgrounds. If we want to go to an inclusive playground, for example, we're not going around the corner from our house. We're driving 50 miles to Palo Alto or Redwood City where they actually have them, when there should be one right here for the families here that live here and pay taxes here and want to be in this community. So I think that communities everywhere, but especially in Marin County, really need to think about the future and think about what they want and who they want in their communities. And I think that has been something that has kind of stuck with me for a long time, is the feeling that, and I hope it's changing, but the feeling that there's just not a lot of value that's placed, unfortunately, around kids like my daughter or the disability community, and that's why they're sent to other schools, and that's why they're not building playgrounds for them, and they're not developing programs for them because I don't know, maybe they don't see the need, or maybe nobody's brought it to their attention, so maybe it's that too.
Beautiful.
Before we cut, we're going to do one
Yeah.
final a redo
Yeah.
of your introduction, but just
sure.
with a different lens effect. So just get a short introduction of basically who you are and why you're here.
Okay.
And all right, good to go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Alicia Ogie. I am a mother of 3, ages 11, 7, and 5. And I'm also the co-chair of Dedication to Special Education. And I'm here to talk about my daughter, who is severely impacted by autism, and who kind of thrust us into this world of disability. And we've been... Can we do that over? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
you can.
I
No
forgot what I said originally. Okay. Starting over now.
And I think you don't have to
Talk so
expand.
much? Okay.
No, you can cut off by like just that.
My daughter has a
daughter's
disability.
severely
Okay.
impacted. It's a nervous reflex almost all people have to keep going.
Yeah, right?
You can,
Okay.
you can end
Can I
at
stop
a simple
there?
point and
Okay,
just,
awesome.
that's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay. Hi, I'm Alicia Ogie. I'm a mother of 3, ages 11, 7, and 5. I've lived here in Marin County for the past 15 years, and my oldest daughter is severely impacted by autism.
There you go.
Okay.